mentioned him as a football player and how good he was as a corner, and you really want to know him as a football player outside of primetime, I would recommend going and watching the A Football Life thing that NFL Network does and the one they did on him. Dude, he was a football savant.
Oh,
He
yeah.
knew
No.
everything about everybody he was going to have to cover. Like, he knew how a dude liked to tie his shoes and how that way of tying his shoes might help him or hinder him in running a hitch route.
Right. Well, I mean, they say that about the great ones. I mean, the great ones they're not born great. They love the game. It's important to them to be the best, and they study their craft. They work on their craft in the gym and in the film room, and they get it. They get it. You know, they get all the parts of the game that make them great.
I guess my point is why I'm saying him is for that reason, because I believe that Jair Alexander, he has that. There's not a lot of guys that have it and like really display. He has that bravado that a corner needs, that Prime created to make him be able to like shake off the bad plays and then come back and kill it. He's lacking, and Dave and I talk about this about him, and I don't know if you watch him a lot. He's really good man-to-man where he can just stick on a guy's hip. But
He's
when
great
he gets
at that, yeah.
Yep, when he has to get in zones or combo coverages where he has to like do the little things to gain leverage or get a defender or defend a guy or an area and push him to another area, and it takes like little details, he's lacking that. And that's why I wish somebody could hook Prime up with him, because he'd be able to talk to him. He's going to listen to him. That's the thing, is key to learning stuff is having somebody you listen to, If Prime would work with him in an off season, like, who knows what that kid could do. Like, I think Prime, like, if anybody that knows him could just do the football world a favor, hook those two up, please. I mean, I don't know if you're just like, whether you're a Packer fan or not. Like, good corners are fun to watch, even nowadays.
No.
Yeah, but I got two guys that we mentioned earlier in the show, Paul, you both and I. Darryl Green is an undersized corner. He was a smaller guy. And guess what? Jair is the same way. He's in the smaller corner, but he plays big. He plays, and that's what Darryl did. He plays the ball, not the receiver.
Mm-hmm.
And D'Angelo Hall, I feel like with those two working with Jair, for example, even with primetime or them, but D'Angelo, he has that fire to him. He has that extra chip on his shoulder. And Jair has that. And I feel like that could help, because D'Angelo was a very hands-on the guy off the line, and he could manipulate a receiver off the line with the best of them in his prime. So I think both those guys with Darryl Green and D'Angelo Hall, if you put those with Jair, I think also could turn out to a really good product. Right.
No, Jair definitely has. I think he has all the physical tools to be a really great cornerback, like you mentioned. Jay, that he, is a very sticky cornerback. Like man coverage, like I can't think of a young cornerback that I'd rather have.
He leads the league in passes defended, I think, too, for broken passes up.
Right. I think the first time I got a chance to watch him after post college last year was the game against the Rams. I think, and he was all over Cooks and Kupp and all over Robert Woods. I'm like, who's this young kid, number 23, making all these plays? And I couldn't believe a guy like 3 years into his pro career was doing this to the best offense in the league. Like, he's just a really good cornerback. But you're right. If he can learn other things, like if he could just hone his craft and learn all things about the cornerback. He was a rookie last
year. He's a second-year guy this year.
Yeah, he was a rookie last year.
Yeah. No, exactly. And I'm saying he was killing it that young in his NFL career. And if he could just learn all the small things about the nuance of being a cornerback and not just be a tremendous athlete, that he could honestly be one of the best cornerbacks in the league we're talking about in 2 or 3, 4 years.
You know what? The love hasn't been shown for one guy I want to mention, Quentin Dunbar. Guy's been killing it this year.
A guy that was a wide receiver in college, was undrafted rookie. Jay Gruden turned him into a cornerback. He saw the traits. He saw the length, which you want to see in some cornerbacks today. A little bit of like a Richard Sherman type of figure. a guy who just made that switch and had the length and had the tools. And he's been one of the better cornerbacks in the league. I think he's like second or third in PFF. I mean, I know PFF isn't gospel to some people, but he's been very, very good. I think he has 4 interceptions this year. He missed much of last season with a nerve injury, but one of the most underrated players in the league. One of the guys that, if you actually watch him, he actually gets how to play cornerback. He's very good.
It's another one of those positions, though, Paul. There's a few of them, like wide receiver, because it's on the opposite. You're on an island. Like, people can see if you can play or not right away. It's not that hard to tell. Like, you're not going to get covered up. You're not going to get disguised. Like, you're there. Like, and people can tell right away, like, it doesn't matter if you're a wide receiver or if you're a linebacker or a safety at one time. If you're a corner and you line up, doesn't take very, very many snaps for somebody to figure out whether, and you might be raw, you're going to make mistakes, but it's easy to tell right away. Like, you can either do it or you can't.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's lots of ways to cover up players when you're, in the scrum down in like the trenches, but I'm going to find out if you're a chump or not on that edge pretty quickly. Wide receivers and cornerbacks, either you can play or not, and then you're exposing yourself. So, yeah, absolutely. Like, guys like Quentin Dunbar and guys like J. Alexander have stood out and shown that, when they're isolated on a great receiver, that they can hold their own, for sure.
Well, actually, do we see Dunbar and Adams tomorrow?
I hope so. I hope so. I mean, I know that he doesn't really follow receivers a ton, but I would hope that tomorrow that's the guy that you see most. You're going to see 23 on 87 or on 17, I should say, most of the day, because if you let Devontae kill it, it's going to be a long afternoon. And I know that if there's no other cornerback on the Redskins right now that stands a chance against them. Norman, definitely not. He's barely played these past 3 or 4 weeks. The other guy on the other side, Fabian Moreau, he's a third-year cornerback out of UCLA, and he's had up and down career for the most part. They just moved him from the slot back out to the edge, and
he's the one who bites on double moves, correct?
He's the one that bites on double moves. Absolutely, yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about then.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to bet on negative. That's how I know him by is he's the one who built on double moves, I believe, this season.
Right, and the last thing you want is for Aaron Rodgers to give his little shoulder flip, and you're biting on a hook, and then the receiver's 10 yards behind you, streaking down the field for an easy touchdown. So it's definitely going to be 23 on 17 tomorrow for the most part.
Okay. All right. This one,
Can I ask you this? Because this is something that I like to ask people.
Go ahead.
Is it fair that, let's say, like a cornerback, right? The really good cornerbacks, you still give up big plays, right? But the how you give up less big plays is not by shutting down a receiver play in and play out. If you really watch the tape of any good corner, and just even if the ball's not to them, and just isolate their film, they're all 22, and just watch a guy all game long, even if the ball never goes to that receiver, about 65 to 75% of all the routes, the DB gets beat.
Oh, yeah. No.
Plain and simple. The ball just doesn't come to him, so there's no reception. But here's the thing. The reason why the ball doesn't come to them is because the really good DBs, there's this innate ability to just show up when it matters. And so then quarterbacks tend not to look at them, and you don't have a lot of time in this league with all the freaks out there rushing the passer. So if you're not there, if you can, you know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
I get bothered by this idea that cornerbacks, they're trash. He got beat, twice, or he gets beat all the time. Well, yeah, if he doesn't do his job 2 or 3 times in a game, and it's earlier in a noticeable scenario, and but they really get beat all the time. But then does he come back on 4th down in 4th quarter and, he got a pass breakup and an interception? Well, I don't care about the times he got beat. But people will just be like, it doesn't matter. He got beat 3 times for a touchdown.
Well,
or he got beat 3 big plays.
I'll say this: the best cornerbacks in the league have short memories. The guys who get beat on one play and they're still jawing with the wide receiver and talking trash, like they're ready for the next down because they don't care about that play they gave up a few seconds ago. They're ready for the next one. And yes, you're right. It is hard to shut down any wide receiver in this league. Like, these are all talented guys. This is not 1975. All these wide receivers run 4.5s, 4.4s. They all have good footwork for the most part. Like they're going to get open. You're counting on your D line and your
the rules state that you can't touch them,
up.
you can't hit them. I mean, the rules are swayed so that they're able to catch the ball too. Let's be real.
Right, but like you said, the gamers are ready, man. The guys who make plays when it's time to make a play are good. Like guys like Marcus Peters and Jalen Ramsey and Xavier Rhodes. He's having a little bit of a down season, this year. But guys like that, like they are the guys who are making big plays when it's time to actually make a big play. They may not be perfect, but they're the guys who are like when the chips are down and it's time to come with a turnover, they're doing it for their team for sure.
My two are Stephon Gilmore and Trey White. Those are my two lockdown guys.
Oh man, I like Stephon Gilmore a lot, and I love Trey White. Good call on that one. Very
yeah, they're both really, really good corners. They really are.
Yeah. Peters had a little bit of a rough patch in LA, but since he moved to Baltimore, he's been great.
He's been playing really good. Yes.
Yeah.
His thing was more attitude than his play on the field, though, and I think he's mature. I mean, everybody matures and grows up. It's been 3 years since he had that hole and got traded, so it doesn't surprise me that all of a sudden the mental aspect is coming to him, and that was the part that was honestly, Marcus Peters didn't have an athletic problem or a performance problem. He had a mental block issue. He had an attitude problem and an immaturity problem that was causing him to do dumb shit on the field and make people not believe that he was the player that he's shown you. Shame on those people. What they needed to do is put their arm around the young man and give him a little advice, and they would have had a hell of a corner, Kansas City.
Yeah, I remember a play when the Chiefs were playing the Jets a few years ago, and Marcus Peters got pissed off at a ref and picked up the flag and threw it into the stands. If y'all remember that?
Yep.
Yeah, like you can't do that shit. Like you gotta kind of grow up and actually be a pro. But like once the mental matches the play and the play on the field, like a guy like Marcus Peters, like they got him for a song, and now he's like one of the premier cornerbacks in the NFL. And I think he's still on his rookie deal, right? I believe.
Have
they extended him yet?
I think this is his fourth year, and he hasn't got an extension. He's gotten traded twice instead.
Right.
So
exactly.
they're not paying him. His money has stayed way back with Kansas City, they're getting him super cheap, super cheap.
Well, Baltimore's going to have some room to pay people too. I mean, they got a lot of young players there.
Yeah, they have a number of guys they're going to have to be paying pretty soon. I mean, Lamar Jackson, he's not going to be paid anytime soon. He's 3 years left until he has to get paid. But, a ton of young players that they're going to have to break off pretty soon, for sure.
I got one final question. Okay, I got to know what you think. Who is to blame for the RG3 knee situation in the playoff game? It's bothering me. I need to see some Redskins insight.
All right. Well, I could
some people blame Mike. Some people blame Kyle. Some people blame Schneider. I need to know who.
Okay. I can do a whole podcast on this one, so I'll give you
summarize it.
I'll give you the Cliff Notes answer. It's a combination of all three, but let me explain in each way how each is at fault for this. When RG3 was drafted, they kind of thrusted him on the Shanahans, on Mike and Kyle. They were like, here's your quarterback. Make it work. I don't care how you do it. Just make it work. They realized that RG3 wasn't a great passer at the time, and I think we've all come to see that that's true, that he, as he dropped back quarterback, he can't do it. So they designed this innovative offense that you're seeing more of an NFL with the read option, and it was gangbusters. It worked great until the Baltimore game when Haloti Ngata threw his helmet into his knee.
Yeah.
Should they at that point have shut him down for the season and say, I don't know what's going on with you. We're going to shut you down and we're going to just get you the best doctors that money can buy and we're going to fix this? Yeah, they should have. But they were in the middle of a playoff run, the first playoff run they'd had in 6 years. So at that point, yes, it's probably the Shanahans and Snyder's fault for not shutting him down. And RG3 to a degree, he wanted to play. RG3 is a type of guy who's like, yeah, put me in there, coach. I want to do whatever I can to make this right.
Yeah.
And he ended up tearing up his knee after that. Now, in 2013 and 2014 and years following, if you're not receptive to going back to that offense, RG3 had to understand his limitations and be like, I can't do this as a pocket passer. But he made it so that he wasn't going to be running quarterback anymore. He went to over the coach's head. He went